So now it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker for the day, Graham Fraine, who's Director-General of the Queensland Department of Natural Resources, Mines, Manufacturing and Regional Development.
Everyone, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands and waterways upon which we are gathered. In terms of acknowledgements, I'd like to start with a couple in particular. Certainly Lynn Molyneux. It was 2 years ago that I came to the first Australian Battery Day that was on this campus in a different building and in a smaller room. I think, if we're looking at 300 today, I reckon there would have been 80 to 100 something that day. And the growth of this and the involvement of government is in no short roll down to your drive and the persistence you have had, particularly with those of us in government, and I'd like to acknowledge that in and of itself. I'd also like to acknowledge the fellow public servants that I have here in the room today, and I do so not for a nice little shout out one public servant to another, but basically to say to those of you outside the public sector in this room that the people who are here today from the state government are those that wake up in the morning thinking about this industry from, life cycle start to finish, from supply chain start to finish. These are the people who are thinking your industry, are thinking of its future, are looking for ways to find the yes, are sometimes looking to get to a no quickly, but are looking in either circumstance to be the voice and the understanding for the work that you do within the state government. By way of getting into the speech proper, I would like to start by saying what is at times an overused phrase, but it is an exciting time to be in Queensland as we prepare, particularly if you have seen the statements of the new state government around this state being open for business. And in the world that I now occupy around natural resources, mines, manufacturing, regional and rural development, there are very specific reasons that these parts of government were put together in the one agency and under the one minister. And that is for us to try and utilise the key wealth generators for this state. So if you think of the mining sector, it is the number one wealth generator industry for this state. If you think of manufacturing, it's the number 4 wealth generator for this state. If you think of what we control in the land space, government and through this department has a role in 60% of the land in this state. So there is a real reason that those wealth generators are being brought together and being brought together to support the aspirations of industry, support the aspirations of our regional and rural communities. And so in the space that we're talking about here today around batteries, there is a real interest in the work that is done not only in one part of the life cycle, one part of the supply chain, but actually how we bring a full industry approach to looking at what we do, from R&D and exploration at one end to offtake agreements and export opportunities at the other end. And so the role of our department and the role that we play in conjunction with the Deputy Premier's Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning is crucial to what we see as driving industry further in this state. And as I mentioned, this is not just a mining piece, it is a manufacturing piece, it is an industry development piece, it is a future of energy piece, it is an export and investment opportunity for this state piece. Now, the people in this room will know some of the numbers I'm going to use throughout this speech in many ways better than I do, but we know from the work that we do, that the battery industry is projected to be worth about 1.3 billion to our economy as a state, and about 9,000 jobs by 2030. And that, again, if you've listened to this government and what their focus is, it is around creating not just jobs, but about creating sustainable jobs and careers for both those in the workforce today, but those coming through into the workforce. So for me, it's key as we do that to strengthen supply chains, build our sovereign capability, and have clear pathways for our manufacturers to access the materials they need to generate batteries. It's critical that we build the skill and the workforce that we're also going to require in this space. So again, you will see that one of the senior ministries in this government is around not only the finance and trade space with Minister Bates, but she also has employment and training. So how we link some of those different parts of government together to be more than some of the parts is going to be critical to the work that we are doing. From a government perspective, we are therefore very proud to support days like today, along with the Deputy Premier's Department around State Development, Infrastructure and Planning. We bring together, between those two agencies in particular, the critical functions to help support the opportunities both within state and as part of the global battery value chain, whether we go from the extraction through to the manufacture and advanced technology. Underpinning this, as I've mentioned, is the capability building of the skills for our domestic battery industry, from engineers to electricians to what we do with our local manufacturers to help them be a part of the supply chains. And so, for instance, one of the lovely things for me about being in the role I am is going back to having the manufacturing hubs that are around the state that I had in a previous role a couple of years ago when I would have last been in front of this group. Those manufacturing hubs and the role that they play in allowing local businesses to again be part of broader supply chains is going to be critical to how we bring this network approach together. We are also proud to support the delivery of the Queensland Battery Industry Strategy. As those who have read it, and I assume most people, if not all in this room, have had a look at it, the objective of that strategy is to increase local content in our battery value chain. And if I just look at a couple of examples of that, some of the work we have done with AMBC and the ICN is co-develop the Australian Supply Chain Database that was launched July this year. The database, for those of you that haven't had a chance to look at it yet, is based on the ICN's website, and it lists 615 companies across the battery value chain and is a free resource for any of us at any time if we are looking for Queensland companies that help in that supply chain space. As a second thing, we have also been working again, AMBC, ICN, Griffith University, QUT, USQ, University of Wollongong have been working around the battery component study. And this study is really looking to highlight areas for investment to strengthen local component manufacturing in the state. And that is something that those partners involved, particularly ourselves and AMBC, will be looking to make available as a report over the next couple of months. And I know from the companies that are in this room today, hearing both Quentin and Rachel do some name calls, that there are already success stories in this room. Now we see companies like Veco, who are building a pipeline of vanadium battery projects, and I think somewhere in the room today, Veco kicking around? Right, straight there. Graphene, which Rachel has mentioned, who are developing the technology applications to support the graphene battery production, and graphene, thank you. Antiotech, are Antiotech in the room today? Oh, hey, shout out. You're developing technology to create high-value anodes. And also, as a separate thing on Antiotech, thank you. You know, you featured in our Women in Manufacturing documentary series, She Made It. And for anyone that wants to have a look at that and have a look at the work being done in women in manufacturing, that is well worth a look as well. I've mentioned the manufacturing hubs already. This government, for those some of you may have seen, had an election commitment about expanding those hubs. We are having discussions as a department with our minister at the moment about the focus of the work at those hubs. We are also, and the minister was announcing this earlier this week, off the back of an election commitment, going to bolster Made in Queensland by an additional $5 million per annum from next year. So events like today, I think, are very useful for helping government as we shape what that future looks like, to give us feedback from industry, from other players in the ecosystem about where you think efforts are best placed. It gives us a good reflection on, are we where we need to be as government in the work that we do to support the ecosystem here? Please, you know, the reason why we've got people here today is to engage in that dialogue, to talk about where opportunity is. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, I see our role as looking for the yes, on occasion getting to the no quickly, but if it's to a no, it is to get there quickly. So thank you very much for the invitation to be here this morning. I know you have a great day. You've got some great keynote speakers, Leanne, for instance, and I hope you have a very productive day. Thank you.